When we played the Rick Wakeman track early on in the programme, I said that Rick would be here to chat with us. You weren't really expecting to be here tonight, Rick, were you?
No, I went to the motor show. Yeah, no, I didn't expect to be here. It's a bit sudden. I only came in for the drink, and I had the drink, and it's going to be quite hard to say anything. But
yeah. You were telling me just now that you actually the first session that you did was with David.
Yeah, the very first session I did was the original Space Oddity, which wasn't that one. That was a re-recording done at Trident with Terry Cox from Pentangle, Herbie Flowers, and myself. That was back in 1970, I think. Yeah, it's the very first session I ever did, and I can't remember getting a cheque from it, which is what we were talking about in there. It was quite strange.
Tell us a little bit about your own album, Rick, because all I've heard from it so far is the track that we played early on in the programme.
Yeah, that track isn't really... well, you can't really make any comparison between the tracks. That isn't... I can't think of a suitable...
Representative?
Well, yeah, it's not really... Yeah, thank you. It's not really representative of the album, because each track is totally different, because I got different feelings from each of the wives. The album was really conceived back in February, although I did start on it before that. I couldn't find anything to latch onto musically, because I can't sing at all. I can't write lyrics. I'm a dreadful lyricist, and I wanted desperately to try and make an album purely of music that people could listen to and get something from, good feelings from. And it's very, very hard to make an album of, say, 36 minutes of pure music.
How did you go about each track, Rick? Did you presumably did a lot of research on the
Yeah, it started when I wanted to try and find something to latch onto myself to write music for. And we were in America doing lots of flights every day, and used to pick up books at bookstores at the airport. And I picked up a book called The Private Life of Henry VIII. And the first chapter was a brief synopsis of the six wives' lives. And one of the tracks that I recorded back the previous December, but had never finished because I couldn't relate to it at all. It related very much to Catherine of Aragon, and another one that I'd done related to Anne Boleyn, in my own feelings for what they'd done and the lives that they'd led. And I really looked forward then to getting back at the end of the tour and going in the studio and trying to redo those tracks, which I did do. Then I picked on each wife separately, read as much as I could about them, got personal feelings from them, and then went and recorded a track for each of them.
So each track really represents your personal feelings?
Personal feelings, yeah. They're all done in different places, and they all sound totally different. It's a very strange album. You
were talking early on about us not really taking too literally the sort of historical run of the album.
It's not all sort of in the Baroque era, which it should theoretically be, and it doesn't all contain Baroque instruments. There's lots of in the not the strict sense of the word, there's a lot of sort of rock and roll on it, which is designed according to my feelings for each wife. The Jane Seymour track was done at St Giles Cripplegate Church, but when we'd recorded about 5 minutes of church organ, we took it back and destroyed it with various synthesizers, which is not meant to crucify the feeling of a church organ, but just to show the comparison between old and new. Because Jane Seymour had although she died young, she had a very old sort of head on her. It was to try and compare the two things and put them together. It's all personal feelings, they're not historically correct.
I mentioned some of the names of some of the people who worked on the album with you. Who were you working with overall?
Well, I've been very lucky. I've done a lot of sessions in the short time I've been sort of working, and I was lucky enough to be able to pick upon the ideal musicians per track. I used Steve, Chris, Bill and Alan from the band. Bill's not with the band now, but only on one track, the track that we heard tonight, because I didn't want to use them too much, because I didn't want it at all to end up anything like a Yes album. I used Dave Winter, who was the old bass player with If, Chaz Cronk, who's bass player with Philip Goodand Tate, and a session bass player called Les Hurdle. On guitars, Mike Egan and Steve Howe, and Dave Lambert from Straubs. And drums, Bill Bruford, Alan White, and Barry D'Souza.
Because it's taken you a long time to record the album, Rick, hasn't
It's
it?
been 8 months, yeah. But
Is that mostly because Yes have been so busy?
Yeah, well, in between that, we've done 4 American tours. Well, we
Mm.
started one before I started the album, and 3 in between. So it's been a matter of the time I've been home doing the album in between those times.
Mm.
It's been pretty hard. You sort of come home one day and you're in the studio the following day. Then the main problem is that you listen back to stuff that you did 3 months ago. You think, yeah, well, that's not what I meant to do. You know, you think, well, that's pony, and you throw it away, and you start that track again. So you're automatically behind time.
Mm. Just finally, before you go, Rick, what about future things now? I know that Yes are going back on tour again in about a week's time, aren't they?
Yeah, we go back on Friday, back to New York, start another tour for 4 weeks. Then we come back, and we've got a 3-month break, but we're going to do a small English tour.
Any idea of the venues yet?
Yeah, we're doing the Rainbow. I must probably get the dates wrong. It's in December. I think it's the 16th is one date. We're doing 2 dates there because we want to use proper side projection and back projection for that gig. Problem is doing a large English tour that we've got so much equipment we just can't cart it around.
Yeah, right.
Which makes a big problem. But we're going to do some dates here. Yeah, good old England.
Right.
That's the one.
Thanks for coming and
Thank you
speaking
very
with us,
much.
Rick. We'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot.